What is a character? Go ahead and sit with that question for a moment. Most writers will say a character is a person in the story. Some will say it is someone the reader cares about. A few will say it is the protagonist, the hero, the one the story follows. All of those answers describe what a character looks like from the outside. None of them explain what a character actually is, or what job that character is doing inside the story. Here is a working definition that changes how serious writers think about every person they put on the page. A character in fiction is a story instrument built to feel like a person. That is not a cold idea, and it is not a mechanical one. It is a liberating one. Because it shifts the central question from who is this person to what is this person doing in this story, and how do they make the reader feel the truth of it? Those are very different questions, and they produce very different characters. Every character carries two simultaneous obligations, no matter how large or small the role. The first obligation is purpose. A character must perform a story function that moves the narrative forward. If a character can be removed entirely and the story still works, that character has not earned a place on the page. The second obligation is differentiation. A character must read as a distinct human being, not a variation of another character, not an echo of the protagonist, not a name attached to a generic set of reactions. A cast that thinks, speaks, and responds alike is not a cast. It is one character wearing different costumes. Both obligations are non-negotiable. A character who serves the plot but feels like furniture fails the reader. A character who feels vivid but serves no story function is an indulgence that costs the story its momentum. So how does a writer make characters genuinely distinct from one another? There are 7 elements of differentiation, and the author must know all of them, even when they do not all appear on the page. What is known shapes what is written. The first is voice, the specific pattern of a character's speech and thought, their rhythm, their vocabulary, their syntax, and their silence. When voice is working, the reader can identify who is speaking before they see a name. The second is wants, what the character consciously pursues, the visible goal they reach for throughout the story. Wants drive plot. The third is needs, what the character must have or become in order to be whole. Needs are often invisible to the character themselves, and they carry the story's deeper meaning. The fourth is goals, the specific scene-level objectives that turn a larger want into action. The fifth is agency, the character's capacity and willingness to make choices that drive the story forward. Agency is the difference between a character who acts and a character who is merely acted upon. The sixth is backstory, the formative history the character carries into the story. The wounds, the experiences, and the beliefs that explain why they want what they want and fear what they fear. The seventh is relationship dynamics, how the character relates to every other member of the cast. The push and pull, the loyalty and friction, the power and vulnerability that define each connection. Of all 7 elements, the gap between wants and needs deserves special attention, because that gap is where the most powerful character-driven drama lives. Wants and needs are rarely the same thing. A character may want revenge and need forgiveness, want recognition and need belonging, want safety and need to be seen. The want drives the plot forward. The need drives the inner journey. When the two collide, when getting what the character wants costs them what they need, that is the moment readers remember long after the last page. Apprentice authors often give their characters wants without needs. The result is a character who feels shallow, driven by plot mechanics rather than inner truth. Know both. Write both. Let them fight each other. There is also a practical dimension to differentiation that craft instruction often overlooks. In prose, a new paragraph signals a new speaker. The reader's eye catches the indent and tracks the shift. In an audiobook, that visual cue is gone. The listener has only the distinctiveness of each voice to know who is speaking. When 3 or more characters share a scene and their voices are not genuinely differentiated, the listener is lost. The audiobook market is enormous and growing. Voice differentiation is not only a craft virtue, it is a functional requirement for a significant and expanding portion of the audience. Prose heavy with attribution tags, he said, she said. Then he said again, signals that the differentiation work has not been done. When voices are genuinely distinct, tags can be used sparingly, as confirmation rather than identification. Here is a simple test. Strip every attribution tag from a passage of dialogue involving 3 or more characters. read it aloud. If the speaker of each line cannot be identified from voice alone, the work is not finished. A cast must also carry internal logic. The people assembled in a story, whether a crew, a family, a squad, or a circle of friends, need a believable reason for being together. The character who exists only to agree with the protagonist and smooth every conflict is not a character. They are a device. Secondary and tertiary characters must carry their own perspective, their own friction with events, their own reason for being in the story. Not every character needs a full arc, but every character needs a point of view that is genuinely their own, one that occasionally puts them at odds with the protagonist rather than permanently aligned with them. That friction is not a problem. That friction is drama. So, when you build your next cast, hold every character to both obligations. Purpose on one side, differentiation on the other. Give them voices a listener could tell apart in the dark. Give them wants that drive the plot, and needs that quietly tear at them from the inside. And then let them act, choose, and collide. That is how a story instrument starts to feel like a person. And that is how a character earns the page.